It's now time for us to have a conversation with Mr. Chris Uwaje. And this conversation is around fake news, which of course was already a problem before the current coronavirus began. In the past, international institutions were reluctant to intervene on the issue. However, this time, the WHO, the World Health Organization, has joined private companies and governments around the world in trying to curb the spread of fake news on COVID-19. Now, Geneva took action after crucial information about the virus increasingly became distorted, resulting in confusion and poor compliance with remedial actions. For instance, claims that 5G technology supplied by Chinese companies is linked to the virus are currently trending, as we all know. Mr. Uwaje, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Pleasure. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Mr. Uwaje. Good to have you join us. Well, first of all, let's talk about 5G technology. In the past few days, there's been a lot of controversy out there with some pastors, Pastor Chris Oyakhilome in particular, and some other pastors and some other commentators, saying that 5G technology is antichrist and that 5G technology is what is responsible for the spread of coronavirus from Wuhan to other parts of the world. Is this true? And what is the difference, really, between 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G technology? And the explanation that has been offered by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, do you agree with him that this is not about coronavirus, but that 5G technology is something that is good for the world?
Thank you, sir. In the first place, let's clear up the dust about Pastor Oyakhilome. It's like telling you he knows the data of the counts of the fishes in our ocean. It's not true. No one knows how many fishes are in the ocean. Really, 5G is about an equation. It's a mathematical equation of what you know, what you don't know, what you should know, and what you should search to know. The issue is that we live in perpetual ignorance. That's why research is there. We are searching for the unknown. And he who gets there first, it's like the old empire. When you get there to the gold, you dig it, right? So the issue is really that there is a lot of ignorance on the way we walk, the way we live, and the way, the future is polluting. For example, let's break it down. What are we searching for? We are really searching for data. Hitherto, before now, nobody has the aggregate of the quantum of data that we have. And of the 7.9 billion people on Earth, each person generates about 1.7 megabytes of data per person per day. That gives you almost about 2.5 quintillion. Right? Trillion is about 10 billion tons, 10 billion tons in the 18th power. And you can imagine, and that's why really the issue of technology to be able to harness power, to connect us together, to be able to distribute information is nothing other than that. And that brings value. So from 1G, why didn't we question 1G? Because it was slow, or 2G because it was a little bit faster, and 3G because, of course, it was faster than 2G, then 4G because, of course, the latency issue and redundancy issue is there. No, it is because that was the status of the world at that time. That's what we know. Then from what we know, we go to the unknown and said, hey, Dr. Abati, in 2050, those who will live in that milieu and domain will classify us as millipede who don't know how to think. Because you might have, in 20, 50, 30 years from now, you might have 50G. There's all possibility. So what we are saying is that the world population compels us to be able to look further on how data, can be harnessed and can be structured in a way that it doesn't cause bigger problem than even the corona. For example, Facebook, of course, we know, has about 1.19 billion subscribers. And that gives him about 4.4 billion internet users. which of course it has almost about 70%. Now, you can classify Facebook as the third country company in the world after China and India, which means, figuratively, Facebook can cause a third world war because of the power of data. It's harnessed so much data that it can use it. We know that Uber does about 14 million rides a day without a car, without owning a car. So the fight is, what is central within 5G is the economy, it is the power, it is culture. And those who control the whole data of this world, at least a quantum of it, will continue to rule the future. It's about pure science and technology. No friction attached. This is the reality of the world we are today. And it's going to be further somersaulted. We are going to see, for example, in 2050, that the highways, probably will be driverless cars. We're going to see an issue where, of course, we have to know that with the quantum of African kids and youths now, what are we doing? What is our research? Indeed, the word research has not occurred in the sensationalism of either Pastor Yakilome or those our searchless minds on the web. It's about corona, 5G, corona. No research. It shows the condition of the mind. It shows the milieu of the education in which we are. It shows that, in fact, we are drafted, with so much innuendos of what we don't know. And now, to top it all, we don't have sociologists and psychologists and philosophers, like, of course, my friend Ruben Abati, to be able to guide us in the way that we should leverage this things on. But we have very good minds in Nigeria. You question yourself, why do Nigerians go abroad and start to do good? Because we have a foundation that is molding our culture, and of course we have to use that to transform into knowledge. We all seek knowledge. Yes, we have data, we transfer to knowledge, but we have to distill the knowledge into intelligence. That is where it comes from. And we should really leave the domain of the fallacy of looking at technology from the physical realm. Technology is man, is man, is man. It's about concept, process, and product. The product, like laptop that we are seeing, the connectivity, like the towers that is connecting you guys to the studio, your camera, is the product. The cell phone that Dr. Ruben Abati is placing on that table is a product of technology. But the issue is that, do we even explore the physical ones that we have already? Now, if I ask you, this cell phone, how many transistors are compressed to make the functionality of the apps possible? It will become something you don't know, you need to explore, but it's inside your phone. What I'm trying to say, sir, is that we need to explore technology from the inside and not from the outside. The phone you are taking has a transistor compressed in the cache, about 2.1 billion transistors inside that phone. How many of us know that? What are the functions? That phone has more power than the technology that orbited Apollo 11 into the moon. That could be checked. So we are not talking about Chris Oyakilome and fantasies of the old and Tales by the Moonlight. We are talking about serious issues. We should be looking at what are the post-COVID responses that we should be looking at, because COVID issue will come and go. So what are we going to do after COVID, which probably will be 3 months, 6 months away from now? There's going to be massive inter-African migration. People will be so confused because poverty will reign. There's going to be mass unemployment, though new companies will emerge. The small companies will emerge. The bigger companies will have to, of course, buy the innovation, the IP of the small companies. And it's going to happen more in the technology realm. Now, what is Africa doing? What is our Nigerian companies doing? let's take some of the very important companies in Africa. You talk about Zynox, you talk about InterSwitch, you talk about those who are really in the game of fintech. You talk about Andela. How are we organizing those minds that drive them? We knew really that Zynox was the architect and the savior of the INEC election, in 2015 because of the equipment that were configured. The contract, though, was given to foreigners, but he, Yustan Eke, delivered it for Nigeria.
Mr. Uwaje, if you don't mind, let me come in here and let's just go back to 5G basically being the bedrock of the fourth industrial revolution. I want to seek some clarification somewhere else and ask you if there's validity to the way some people are feeling. Now, does 5G as well, coming from China, all the controversy around Huawei, other Chinese companies, does this give Beijing a certain lever on information, global information, that maybe validates people's fears about 5G technology coming from China? Because people are looking at it and looking at the situation more based on access to information that Beijing will have. This, or do you just think that we live in a world now where data is open and accessible to everyone, so claims like that are not necessarily valid?
There will be concerns, and there are security concerns, there are personal privacy concerns. That is true. But really, I just throw it back to you. If 5G has come out of Africa, or has come from Australia, or probably have come from South Africa, the narratives we are having now will be different. Do you agree?
I'm not necessarily sure, because China is a communist state, so I think that also has a lot of the playoff on the fears of open data and information. Back to you, sir.
That's exactly where I'm going, all right? Now, the world is being partitioned into two curtains, okay? You have authoritarian governments out there, and you have what we call quote-unquote democracy, all right? Now, the mind that is formed on these curtains is based on the data that are harnessed from birth to death. Everybody looks up to those who harness that data and who governs that data. It just happens that technology is an interface to distribute this data and information. Now, before you can earn that capability, you must have a strong educational and scientific background. I tell you what, I was in Shanghai, and you have startups that are coming up, 12,000 startups a day. I don't think you can beat that. I was in California. I saw how the startups are doing. Startups are all over the world. What we should know is that this is a technological race. Okay, it's not an arms race, though you can weaponize the data, as we know, and the world is being weaponized. But at the center of all this, our discussion, is software capability. The hardware aspect is different. It can be manufactured. There are models, there are designs. But to codify the functionality and functionability is within the software capability of man. And now I ask us, how many software institutes do we have in Nigeria? How many software institutes do we have in Africa? Now, if you take the power of 5G and give it to US to codify, of course, they have the software capability to be able to re-engineer the design. But of course, the packaging will be different, because these are things that they have mastered over the years. It's like the fight of the empires, Greek, Rome, and the rest of them, and of course, one is taking over, and there's this issue. So what we are saying is that 5G is a technology that is data-driven, that of course it harnesses, the powers of telecommunication to deliver some services. What is at the center is who controls the money, who controls the power therein. I think that is really the core aspect of the 5G controversy. And of course, there have been a lot of controversies in terms of theories here and there. But I'm concerned about Africa, because when two elephants fight, of course, those who are going to suffer will be the ground and the grass. What is Africa doing? Where is Africa's interest? We cannot hold brief for the world. We can contribute, but we need to look forward strategically. What are people doing? Indeed, 5G is more or less belated. The plane has flown away. They've deployed almost 217 researchers in China to be able to look at the evolution of 5G to 6G. So research is now going on 6G. I'm concerned about what we can use 5G for. Don't forget that 5G does not exist alone. 5G came into full force because of two significant things. Because of the Internet Protocol of the world, the IPv4, that is being exhausted, though African has a lot, that is still being in abundance, but it's been migrated. That the IPv, the Internet Protocol, which of course is the interface of the DNS, to drive data to be faster because of the population growth, is now in IPv6. So IPv6, of course, has enabled more manufacture and production of transistors for IoT, Internet of Things. Internet of Things to be speedified in smart cities, and all the configuration that we have need to have a low latency. The low latency is really what now propels that data transfer and algorithms that are going to be developed. Now, let me tell you, in the last 40 years or so, you only have just 20 million apps that have been developed, integrated in system configuration. But with 5G, if you look at between now and 2025, you're going to have, within that 3 years of the 5 years, you're going to have probably about 50 million apps that's going to be developed, which is, they're going to sit on the platform. You see, it is about the platform ownership. Who owns it? Now we are using, of course, Skype. Skype is rolling on a platform of Google. Now, if these two cuts off, we are left dry. So what are we building as Africans?
Well, Mr. Uwaje, sorry to interrupt you at this point. There is a major subject of concern, and that's whether or not 5G technology constitutes a health hazard. The Mobile Manufacturers Forum and WHO, since the 50s, have been studying the effect and implications of radio waves. Are you aware of any position by WHO and the Mobile Manufacturers Forum on the radiation levels of 5G and whether indeed it poses a threat to human health?
Thank you very much, sir. There has been a lot of studies on health concerns, even when it was 1G, about the radiation, and predominantly about cancer. And we have seen that the joint committees of both WHO and health professionals in the world have really reconciled that there is no major concern, for radiation that is so intense to cause cancer. That has been rested, all right? But really, the issue of radiation is also based on the latency and redundancy of the equipment. So for 5G, in fact, it has even lower wave than the other ones that has been existing. So it is even safer to be driving a 5G modular technology than you can have with the other one. So the answer is 5G is not evil. 5G is a very scientifically approached, designed, and of course manufactured piece of knowledge equipment that can help the world to be able to leverage and save data. Companies like Zynos, like Conga, and whatever will be able to drive the momentum of the logistics to be able to deliver goods. And that is going to raise the level of employment in our country. That is going to ensure that e-learning, education can be done. 5G, really, on real time, you can have surgery that can be done online, although there are miniaturized things that have been doing now between India, US, and China in surgical digital surgery. But what we are saying, sir, is that 5G is as safe as the walk you have on your street when the sun is born. Even the sun can give you a sunburn if you are really not careful or wearing the right stuff. So, but this is a piece of equipment to transmit data. The issue really is not about what it causes. It's about the power it possesses. Because people know that 5G is safe. It is the power. How can somebody control this power? That is at the bone of contention. And that power is both economic, because it's data-driven, it's data harnessed, and data custodian. Once you have them, of course, you can know, what the world is doing, do your forecast. There'll be algorithm that'll be telling you here is the. And of course, Dubai and the rest of them have been using the face recognition driven by 5G for quite a long time.
On that note, thank you very much, Mr. Chris Uwaje. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on The Morning Show.